we're doing Suminagashi, and these are the Suminagashi inks in here. You want to be really careful with these because they're super liquidy and they're also permanent. So that means you might want to wear an apron today if you don't want to get it on your clothes. For Suminagashi today, you're working with a partner. There are 2 brushes at your center, but these 2 brushes are for you because when you're doing Suminagashi, you're going to be using 2 colors that you alternate. Maybe later you can switch to more colors. We'll talk about how to do that. So I have 2 brushes for me, so if it's my turn to go first, I'm going to choose which 2 colors I want to use for my Suminagashi, and I'm going to gently, just barely dip the brush into the ink. It really sticks on there and you don't need a lot, so just the very tip of the brush into my 2 colors and it kind of sucks it right up. So I've got my 2 colors on my brush. Now let's talk about what we'll do with these on the water. Get my water half filled just like I did last week. I'm going to start with my 2 colors. Now the goal here is to make the color drop exactly vertically onto the surface of the water. So it's almost like picture the water is like this and you're dropping your brush this way, so it's actually perpendicular to the surface of the water, and you just want barely the tip to touch the surface of the water, and the longer you let it touch, the longer the color goes out. Now it's hard to see what I just did, but there's color that went into the water. Now I'm going to use the other hand with the other color and I'm going to touch it to the surface. Now what you're going to start to see happen is that you are going to create a series of rings by alternating back and forth with the color. Because the longer you leave it, the thicker the ring will be. And I'm just barely dropping it. Notice I'm not dunking it under the water. I'm just barely dropping the color in the center. So it's like a pattern. Blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. It makes these really cool like tree rings. It's going to feel weird because you don't have, one hand doesn't feel comfortable holding the brush. You're just going to keep going till you've filled up a good portion of the space. Now I can kind of see those really cool rings. At this point, I'm going to put these down. And I can either just fan the water like with my hand, or I can blow a little bit to make some more interesting designs. Just gently blowing is going to move that ink across the surface of the water. I'm just going to let it kind of do what it does. Then when I'm ready to print, I'm going to have my name, and it's going to say Suminagashi on the back, just like we did last time with the chalk prints. I'm going to find the place where most of the Suminagashi ink is, and it's still moving. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to kind of decide where I want to place it, but I think I'm going to put it here. So set it down. Same thing as before, making sure that all of the paper is touching. Pull it up. Whoa, so cool. I can tell that I missed a little bit here, but you know what, that even looks cool that way. So I'm going to drip off the rest into the water, and then I'm going to put this on the drying rack. Now it is my looked up a cool trick to absorb some of that water that's left over after my partner prints. If I take this piece of paper that Mrs. Snyder has cut for us, we'll make sure it's cut down to the right size, and if we just drag it over the surface of the water, you're going to remove some of the excess ink that is there. If for some reason your inks start to sink to the bottom instead of floating on top, raise your hand and let Mrs. Snyder know, and that means that the surface tension of the water has been broken and you need help changing water. So please don't do that without an adult because you will spill and make a big mess. So if your ink starts sinking instead of floating, raise your hand and ask for help. my two brushes, my partner wants to use these two colors, they could go, notice that I didn't have to go back in the ink. I just used the ink one time, very little amount is required. But now if I'm ready, my partner's ready to go to a new color, that's why we have the clear tub of water here. Gonna make sure that you really clean these off till there's no color remaining. Use a paper towel even so that you can dry them off so that they're ready for your new color. So now I can choose two other colors. If my partner is going to go, you are going to be doing two prints at Suminagashi. So you do one, your partner does one, then it goes back to you.